welcome to the Independent Thinking Online Children's Book Festival Extravaganza. Another session, another great author, something slightly different from some of the storybooks that we've been having or some of the books for children. And this book festival is brought to you in a partnership with the Sue Atkins Book Club, and it's through the Sue Atkins Book Club that I came across Sue Donnellan and an amazing book called Secrets to Parenting Without Giving a Naughty Word. It's a striking title, it's a striking cover, and it is, and you might be able to tell by seeing all the various sort of things I've got on the pad and the post-it notes and everything. It's a really interesting book, and one of the things, and it's written for parents, but from a teacher's point of view, from a behaviour point of view, you could read this book and just replace the word parent with teacher, and it's just a fantastic book about getting the best out of the children in your classroom. So whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, the following 20 minutes, there will be lots for you. So Sue, welcome, and just introduce yourself, tell us where you are, tell us what time it is, tell us how you got to writing this.
Sure, thank you, Ian, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm in the States, it's 7 a.m., but I'm happy to be here. So I am not a traditional author. I wasn't sure that I would end up writing a book, but I am an entrepreneur. I started my own business about 25 years ago in an unrelated business. I'm in sales, and I've run actually a couple of businesses that I'm still running. And I wasn't an overall fan of children, nor did I ever think I wanted any. And when I dated my husband, I tried to tell him that I didn't think I wanted any kids, but he loves kids. So I had a child for him and ended up having my second child was triplets. So I got thrown into the parenting ring, just kind of shockingly, went from 1 to 4 kids overnight. And I had some learning to do. So I'm a type A person. I say it and I want you to do it. I had no experience with kids. I didn't know about the nuanced psychology that it takes to raise children, or how to reach them, or how to motivate them. So my husband is also in the military, and he was in combat and he deployed a lot. So I was home alone running my own business while trying to raise 4 independent children, all with their own needs and their own personalities. And I am a student of psychology, and I am intuitive, and some of these instincts started to kick in as I was raising the kids. As I was yelling all the time, I realized that wasn't an effective way to get my kids to do what I wanted them to do. So the reason I wrote this book is because it captures my journey from going, from a person who never really wanted kids, to a parent of 4 overnight, to a type A controlling person who thought, I just tell you to do something and you'll do it, to then just my intuition kicking in and learning how to motivate kids and learning the counterintuitive ways, really, that ended up becoming very successful for me, which is why I named the book what I named it, because to some degree, you have to learn how to let go of control to gain control. And that's why that's one of the chapters in the book. And as I was raising the kids, I started to see a lot of these parents were using controlling mechanisms. They were using restriction. Grounding really creates rebellion in the end. So I saw that a lot of these parents were grounding and timeouts and restricting, and it wasn't working. And neither was the yelling that I was doing. I had to admit that some of the things that I was doing when I was frustrated with my kids' behavior, I had to ask myself, what can I do different? How can I show up differently? So anyway, the part of the journey that I went through, learning all of these techniques and these methods, and a lot of the things that I do and that I teach are based in Montessori, which helps children become autonomous, self-directed, independent, and just happier overall. So that's how I put the book together. And as my kids, I started probably writing it maybe when the triplets were probably about 15. So my oldest was 18. So I was already through the teenage years, and it really, in the throes of the teenage years, it really became apparent to me that, parenting without giving an F, you really have to learn how to kind of let go. And parenting is a lot going on behind the scenes. It's very nuanced. And sometimes you have to come at things in a variety of directions, and it's a lot more psychological, but it's counterintuitive, right? So there's a lot of these techniques that I use that parents will scratch their head and say, how is that going to work? And I just go, be patient. And some of these techniques really, I mean, they work quickly, that you can adopt quickly, that, like I said, less control equals more control, those types of mentalities. It's a foundational way of thinking. So that's how I structured the book. And I did, in the first half, is your relationship with yourself, because the way that we show up for our kids is what's most important. If we change, our children change. We're taught that as parents, if we want to change the child's behavior, we have to fix them. But in reality, what we really need to do is we need to look at ourselves and admit that what we're doing now, like in my case, yelling, isn't working. Mm-hmm. So what does work, and what do I do? And so this book will give you, from ages 2 to 20, all the techniques, all the methods, all the little hacks, all the things that you can do in quick techniques and methods that will turn behavior around fairly quickly.
Thank you for that. It's everything you've said. If we change the word parent to teacher, is exactly the same sort of work where we're trying to support teachers in helping children behave better in the classroom management. You give control. I've said this for years. Independent thinking is 28 years old next year, I think. And for nearly 3 decades, I've been saying you get control by giving control. Teachers can be control freak for all sorts of reasons, but it's counterintuitive. Like you say, you actually, and sometimes your most troublesome children in the class are the ones you have to give the control to most, in order to get them to do the things that you want. And you said about, well, I think of it, if the parent changes, that's what changes the child. Our most successful behaviour management book ever is by a guy called Paul Dix. I'm speaking to Ellie, his wife, as part of this festival later on. But his book is called When the Adults Change. It's all about us. Like, what can we do in order to change their behavior? But let's start with us. So I just wanted to sort of highlight that for the listeners, and for you as well, how we're all, it's just right at the heart of understanding what's going on in children's brains and working with that, isn't it?
It's funny when we relate this to teachers. Now, we had our kids in a Catholic school here in Boise, Idaho, and there were a variety of reasons why we chose that school versus the school that was down the street from us. But it was also very, they were using a lot of those old-fashioned controlling methods. And due to the fact that we raised our children with respect and partnership and these types of techniques, it was funny because they'd come back and say, well, if the skirt was only 2 inches away from the knees, and they had all these rules that they really thought they were doing the right thing. And that's what parents are doing. We think that if we take the keys and we ground them and we, take the phone, by doing these restrictive methods, we feel like that's all we know how to do, but it just is not what's effective. And in the school, when the teachers do try to clamp down or try to get the mass of the room, the masses, to behave, sometimes it's just using more respectful. We think we're being respectful, but in practice and in theory, the respectful techniques that we use are more partnership related. And that's really the crux of my methods is partnership. Parents struggle, well, I'm not their friend, I'm their parent. Well, I like to use the word partner, and partnership really encompasses all of those basic respectful methods and the way that we treat any child at any age with respect, even though we all think we're doing that already. We're not when we're restricting and when we're controlling. It's not respectful.
I love the list where you talk about being respectful towards children, and respect is like control. You get it by giving it. And
yes.
Respect isn't about lying on the floor with the children and playing with them all the time. It's not about constantly listening to them, and it's not about responding every time. All of those things which we think are actually just being caring, noticing, respectful parents are actually making it worse, because then they think that they can summon you at any point, that you don't have a life apart from with them. Again, it's counterintuitive. You think you're doing good.
It is,
but actually you're making things worse.
Yes. And and the other thing about parenting and even being a teacher is, the guilt. We feel that we're not being a good parent if we're not getting done every time our child says something. Everything is not as important. And as they get older, your attention needs to be a lot more astute than when they're 3 and 4. But when we're new parents, we feel like if we're not down there, giving them every little on their eye level, that we're not doing the right thing. And part of what I think turned out for my methods and how I became a better parent was because I was thrown into this motherhood of 4 kids quickly, and I had my own business and my husband was deployed. I was in this situation where I had no choice but to say, I don't have time. And it really, what came from that was my kids having to do their own laundry and my kids packing their lunches at 5 years old. And these types of things that I might not have been so spring-loaded to do if I weren't overwhelmed with 4 when I almost really didn't want any. This mentality, this threw me into this parenting methodology and this partnership and this independence way of thinking and raising the kids. And I just, as I developed these methods over the years and I saw other parents, I realized, I really should put this down. I should get this out there and see how I can help other parents.
And it's worth noting that you write the book from the rearview mirror and that your children are adults now, but they are happy, healthy, secure, independent.
They're independent. They're role models for their friends. They're in 3 of them. My oldest one graduated, but the 3 are in college right now. And they're really noticing how some of their peers are just underprepared for life. And it's an interesting thing to see how some of these kids, their coping mechanisms and just the reliance on external, whether it's, drugs or whatever it is, the drinking, the things that the kids are relying on today for help. It's interesting.
The starting point, and it's linked, actually, I'd like you to read, because we focused on control, and control is at the heart of it. And I want to go from control to ego, and how the two overlap and how we need to get rid of both to achieve both. But if you could just read a little bit from, I think it's chapter 2, about control. And there's a really interesting checklist of how to do control well and how to do control in a way that liberates the person we're working with. You can have a read.
Sure. So chapter 2, how to let go of control and trust your gut. I experienced many epiphanies on my parenting journey, and learning to let go of control was among the first and most impactful. With 100% certainty, I can tell you that life on the other side of being controlling is like the difference between a black and white photo and an illuming image on the cover of National Geographic. It's vibrant, freeing, and it made me unexpectedly happy. Here is the epiphany: lose control to gain control. Letting go of the need to control my kids took awareness and a willingness to work at it. But to my shock, it led to rapidly improved behavior from my children. Not to mention, once I started to get the hang of it, it spread to other relationships. My hubby and even my work colleagues were all loving the new non-controlling me. Letting go of control doesn't come easy. It's a process. First, I needed to admit my controlling ways to myself and recognize that no one in my sphere, including my kids, wanted to be bossed. Second, I had to redefine the actual, quote, need factor as it applied to my involvement in any situation. Third, I honed and connected with my intuition and instincts to trust myself and the journey we are all independently living. And then at the end of the chapter, I do have the checklist to identify controlling behavior. There are a few things that you can ask. Do I need to be right, or the hero or the rescuer? Do I want to say, I told you so? Do I mask using control by hiding behind safety? For example, you can't go, it's not safe. Do I need to be needed? Am I helping or controlling by doing it for them? And who is benefiting from my involvement, me or my child? And the other checklist to identify non-controlling behavior is, am I acting as a facilitator? I do not have an agenda other than my child's best interest. I'm providing resources and support. I'm providing a safe environment for them to make choices. I provide structure and consistency, and my child has clear boundaries and limits and can trust that they have freedom within those stated limits. Yeah. And one of the things that I like teaching in mentoring is that we really want to create a structure in our homes of freedom within boundaries. So I talk about the need factor. When I let go of control and realized that I wasn't as needed as I thought I was, for the kids to start making their own lunches, they did their own laundry, they made their own lunches starting at 5. I created the environment where they could pick their, I taught them, get a protein, get a fruit. I bought the fruit, I cut the fruit, I had everything facilitated. I was acting as a facilitator. So even in a classroom, how can I facilitate the environment with which they have choices? They don't have to ask me to get something off the high shelf. I'm facilitating this environment of freedom to choose within set boundaries. So that's the goal.
Yeah, no, that's nice. I remember reading an article about the teenage brain, and you can boil it down into EELs: excitement, engagement, love, and structure. Those 4 things: excitement, just something different, something happening, something to stimulate them; engagement, something to keep them on going, whether that's continually improving, something to do with internal motivation; love, unconditional positive regard; and then structure, something to push against. It's not about total freedom. It's not, you're not, by giving them control, you're not one of these liberal parents who lets them do whatever the hell they like. Far from it. There is the structure there, and that comes across really strongly. Something else as well that I really liked, one of your rules linked to, I think it was respect. You know you're winning, say nothing. And that resonates from that list. Sometimes, I hear it in myself as a parent, as a teacher, you have to have the last word. You have to, not only do they have to do what you say, they have to do it nicely with a smile on their face. Otherwise, you constantly getting it. Just explain that a little bit more. Because it's such a powerful form. You're winning. So you're winning. Say nothing. Just highlight that a little bit for us.
Yeah. Again, so and just briefly with the book, with the first half, we work on ourselves. We have an awareness to our ego, how to let go of the control, how to not do guilt. We learn some techniques within ourselves and some awarenesses that we then take into the second half of the book, where I do talk about those types of specific techniques with behavior and how to change behavior. So again, this comes from an awareness that we're asking our kids to do things and they don't listen. So we're constantly reminding, and it's frustrating and stressful for us. But so in the book, and I do give an example about, say, the dishwasher. We ask our son to empty the dishwasher, and when they get to be 12, 13, 14, they're mumbling under their breath. They don't want to hear it. So he's walking over to the dishwasher. Oh, they ask us to do it. I'm doing everything. I always have to do everything. He's mumbling. Well, stop in that moment and ask yourself, am I winning? Am I already getting him? He's walking to the dishwasher to do the job I asked, but he's mumbling under his breath and he's not happy about it. I don't expect him to be happy about it, but am I winning means stop in that moment, because in that moment we're angry and we're I hate to use the word triggered, but like we're triggered when we hear them yelling or mumbling under the breath that they don't want to do it. We feel like we have to correct that behavior. We have to correct that mumbling. We think that it's talking back. We can let that go. We don't need to be that involved in that. Big picture, I'm winning. He's doing what I asked. I don't need to parent the mumbling. Same with the mowing the lawn. Our daughter was mowing the lawn. She didn't bag it. So we had to send her back out there, and she's angry that it's taking her twice as long. I expect her to be angry, but she's going back out there to do the job. So knowing I'm winning, and I was winning.
Yeah. No, I like that. Again, so relevant for teachers. You're winning. So why then reignite the war? Why then reignite the arguments? Yes. Because they're not doing it in the way that you think they should. Think big picture, and those things you can address later. But at that precise moment, just stop. And yes, we are triggered by that. You shouldn't think that. You shouldn't be so. That's rude. But just helicopter above it, just a little bit more. I can see that. We're going to run out of time. I told you we could speak for hours about your book.
It's fun.
Yeah. What really interested me as well, and I can see this for teachers, is the programmable nature of children. When you start to understand the language and the behaviours, how you can then in a nice way, and you do make sure the caveat is there, do it for good and not for evil. But just
right.
how programmable children are, and how we can do it.
Well, it's funny. I just was mentoring somebody over the weekend about this very subject. And it was the parent was upset because his 5-year-old is hanging out with friends that are entitled, and the parents are very permissive. And his 5-year-old is starting to act bratty, like this entitled little girl. And we had a script of a bunch of things that he could do. But one of the techniques that we used was programming. And he was coming to this discussion that we're not allowing this girl over anymore. No more. We're cutting her off. Well, you can't do that. You might be able to do it at 4, but you're not going to be able to use these restrictive techniques. So what do? You only have control over your environment, your home, and what you teach your child and what you're willing to accept. So part of embracing the ability to have your daughter make her own choices and keep her own friends, we're going to work on the back end to keep this under control on our end. That's all we have control over. We don't have control over who she has access to. So in this case, we talked about programming, and I suggested programming his daughter that this is the behavior. I will not tolerate how, this girl has you behaving. You are a leader. You are a role model. She's not being taught these types of respectful things. So you can go in and teach her how she can behave. And we program her with the behavior we want her to that even if she is being a Me Too type of girl and acting bratty like the friend, you can change that narrative by telling her she's acting, as a leader. And I love how you act. These types of programming things that we can do to turn the situation around. And she then becomes that. She then becomes the leader. She then becomes the person that stops that behavior and says, that's not who I am, or whatever. Those are the things that parents can do to just create an inner narrative with their child rather than restricting the girl from coming over. That's not practical.
Oh, I like that. So you're constantly influencing them. They're in a narrative that they've gone to construct, but in a positive way, because we know we're doing it. And parents are doing that to children all the time anyway, but sometimes
it's intentional.
It's with intent, and with a good intent for their long-term well-being and independence as a human being, as opposed to a quick win, or even creating these narratives that are destructive without us even being aware of it, because we thought we were, you're always this or you're always that. We're actually saying, no, when you do that, that shows real leadership. That's really powerful.
Yes. Leadership. It's funny. As I was writing the book, because I'm business minded, and I have my own business and sales and marketing, and there were a couple of times writing the book, I thought, should I be tying this more to a leadership? And then I just thought, no, I'm not. I decided not to go that route, but I did talk leadership in the last chapter about punishment is pointless. I did get there, but we are very much leaders as parents. That's what we are. And as teachers, we are taking on a leadership role. And there are some strategies that, I do talk about that help you, just quick little ideas that can turn a situation.
I like that. Punishment is pointless. Did you say that? Was that one of the? Is that one of the?
That's my last chapter.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. On that bombshell. On that note, if you want to find out more about that, read Sue's brilliant book. So, how can people get wherever they might be seeing this? Probably in the UK, but globally as well. How can they get hold of the book? How can they get hold of you?
Yep, the book is available on Amazon in the UK. I'm on Ingram Spark. I mean, if the school wanted to buy, bigger copies, I'm on Ingram Spark, which is a big distributor. I'm on Barnes and Noble. I'm available across all platforms, Kobo. So individual books on Amazon, and my website is askmomparenting.com. And on the website, I can sign up. I do offer 20 free minutes as a consult to try to get to see if this is a fit. So 23 minutes are available to them. And just, any mentoring, signing up on my website. I do have some free downloads, that type of thing. I'm working on some courses.
Right. That's nice. And the free mentoring, that can be even at 7 o'clock in the morning, your time. I like that. I'm so energized by this content, and I love helping. So yeah, you're right. I will get up at the crack of dawn if that's what it takes. Okay, and as a parent of triplets and as well as their amazing brother, you're getting up in the middle of the night is second nature to you, I'm sure.
Well, not really anymore. Thank God those days are over.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. It was fun. Thank you.